Off the deflection, Los Fresnos comes back and wins. Now Santa Maria will put up a three. Bang! Santa Maria!
Here's Warner. Here comes a headed jam. Counted for two. Field. Adios! And the Falcons win on a walk-off. And it's saved.
What a game. What's this? Smack. To the left. That is gone.
Rafa Perez. That's my play. Off the backboard. Count it. And a win. And a win. Ryan Perez wins the game for the Santa Rosa Warriors, and they go.
And a pleasant good afternoon, everyone, and welcome back to another broadcast here on Rio Sports Live as we are coming to you once again in Brownsville, Texas from Luke Furia Motors, home of Buick, GMC, and Cadillac. Luke Furia Motors, one of our sponsors on Rio Sports Live, Talkin Sports, and we are going to go right into it. Kevin Naro with some basketball.
Yeah, we're joined by Brownsville Saint Joe head coach Sammy Lucio, fresh off a huge district win against Laredo St. Augustine. Congrats, first of all.
Thank you.
You guys had, TMI last week, and then you had the St. Mary's game on Saturday, and then the big one was Laredo.
Yeah.
And Saturday before the game, I had asked you that the trap game.
Yeah.
Going back to Saturday, it kind of felt that way.
Yeah.
Retracing our steps back to Saturday, the guys looked a little sluggish. So just talk about that game and how the guys were able to shake off that slow first half and were able to figure it out in the second half.
Yeah, we came out a little sluggish that day. With the travel and everything, it kind of hurt us a little bit. But at halftime, we adjusted. I told them, we played a pretty bad half, and we were up by one. So I told them, we'll let's get out of here with a win, no matter what the score is. And we responded well in the second half.
Yeah, I thought, the defense made some adjustments. We saw a couple of key guys. We continue to see Diego play really well. He played a big role. I feel we didn't talk about him enough against TMI with just a lot of the little things that he did. Talk about how Diego's developed.
Diego's coming along. He played the first tournament. We went to Fort Worth, and he kind of got a little injured that day in that tournament. And so he took about a month off, and then he came back from Christmas break, and we started working him slowly during practice. And TMI was really his first game, so like you said, he played big. He did all the little things. He was just physical, got rebounds, made a few baskets. What he helps with our guys is he sets great screens because he's a big dude, so it's hard to go around him.
Yes.
So that gives Jimmy and Jerry a little bit extra space. So Diego's coming along very well. Got a little bit of foul trouble last night, but he's going to be a big part. If we want to do something this year, Diego's going to have to be a big piece this year.
And going into the Laredo game, how did the guys handle the mental side of it, understanding that, we talked about that sugar rush deal on, they were on that high when they beat TMI, and we saw it come back down just a little bit against St. Mary's. And then emotionally, you got to turn that back up hosting a team like Laredo.
Yeah. The kids knew what Laredo was going to bring to us, that it was going to be a tough game. Since we've been in the same district with them, every game's been a battle. Last year we had two great games with them, and we knew it was going to be tough, and so the kids were ready and they were excited, and I told them this is why you play sports, for these games, and I think they took a lot of pride in it. We have a lot of seniors, and the seniors came through there at the end of the game.
Well, let's walk through that game real quick, Coach, and let's start it out first quarter, okay? I don't think anybody in the gym prior to the game and even after the first quarter would have expected it to be single digits, both teams. On one side, they defended you. On the other side, talk about how your kids stepped up and said, okay, we can play a game like this too.
Yeah.
Well, let's walk through that first quarter. No points being scored.
Yes. We can't. We knew we were going to have to. They have Chris Ramirez, number 15 for them, is a tremendous player. We've played against him since he was a freshman. He's a senior now. So our game plan was to slow him down. We didn't think we were going to stop him. So, but we knew we had to be a little physical with him, and I gave the challenge to Lucas Cristiano, and I thought he did a great job. I think Chris ended up only with 13 points when he's easily averaging over 20. And we just played very good, sound defense. We don't play that many guys, so I'm telling these guys, just keep your hands up. Don't try to block shots. Just stay in front, and we had a pretty good game plan, and they executed it very well in the first quarter.
By halftime, it still was a low-scoring game, 21 apiece. You go into the halftime break, and Then you start talking about what we've done and what we're going to do. Let's talk about what we've done. You got through the first half, you're tied, nothing decided, but you're right there in the game.
Yeah, at halftime when we went in there, we just said, let's keep the defense is fine. The offense is going to come eventually. We have Jerry, we have Jimmy, we got Lucas they all can score the basket, Ethan. But we just got to keep getting stops on defense. Just keep the defense intensity there. Eventually, the shots are going to go in for us in the second half. De
La Cruz picked up his third foul on a goofy call right at the end of the half, which I'm sure that drove you nuts. Yes. But on the flip side, Laredo Alexander started the second half with some guys, I said it during the broadcast, on the verge of foul trouble in the blink of an eye. And your guards recognize that. Mm-hmm. And let's talk about the adjustment made and the attack of their defense in the second half.
Yeah, they were doing a good job of trying to take Jerry away from us in the first half. So I told Jimmy he needed to be a little bit more aggressive getting in the paint. And when Jerry got the ball too, we just started attacking the paint more. They run a high 2-3 zone, so we tried to get the ball in the middle of the paint. And I mean, Jimmy and Jerry are good at getting in the lane when they want to, and we drew some fouls and they knocked down their free throws.
There was a stretch in that third quarter and when suddenly everybody found the range, and I'm talking both sides. The threes started going in from both sides. Yeah. But I think that's more of an exhale for your players to say, finally the shots are going in, and they weren't going to let up.
Yeah, we always say that we're a second half team. Like, we know shots are going to hit in the second half, but like you said, number 33 Octavio hit some big shots that with good defense on him, and
contested fadeaway threes.
I think number 24 hit a big three too. I mean, Laredo they have shooters all the time, and they just make their kids are very well coached and they play hard, and we can't just put them away. You know they're going to give you 32 minutes.
But again, you go into the third quarter and Jerry Martinez hasn't made a basket. Yeah. He's made free throws, hasn't made a basket. But when he started making them, it was right then that kind of seemed to open the flow of that game up.
Yeah. I mean, we know that Jerry's going to get his eventually. He's relentless out there. He leads us out there, and he's a special player. I mean, he really is. He's very smart. He's like having another coach out there, and we knew he was going to start. When he hit the corner three and then he hit the next one, I was like, yeah, he's going to get going now.
All right, and let's talk about, before we get into the fourth quarter, let's revisit a little bit. The Cristianos, the Ethan Gallegos, the other role players on this team were not only making shots, but because they were the ones making shots, but they're also the guys that are against the height that are finding ways to seal off the rebounds. Talk about the focus on those guys, making sure that great blockouts against some bigger players.
Yeah, Lucas and Bernie and Ethan, yes, we're undersized. I mean, we're starting 5 guards against some big teams this year, and we've just been preaching all year fight. Like I tell them every game's like a 12-round heavyweight fight, and these guys have a lot of fight in them, man. And Bernie's undersized, but he has the biggest heart, and he plays hard. He takes charges. He took a big one at the end of the game. Ethan took a couple of charges. Lucas drew some fouls when he was blocking out. I mean, they played tough last night. I mean, I was super happy for them.
I've been around teams that focus a lot on boxing out and getting those rebounds. That leads to some pretty physical practices. Yes. Talk about the work ethic of these guys getting ready for games like this. Because I know last year you lost to a team that was bigger.
Yes.
And so you had to focus on blocking out. Talk about those practice sessions.
Oh, yeah. I mean, we get after it in practice. It's fun. It's good to see Jerry and Jimmy go at each other in practice. I mean, I think they're 2 of the best guards in the Valley, and get to see them go at each other in practice is awesome. But everybody goes hard in practice. We just preach they got to be physical. The blocking out, we knew. I mean, it was obvious last year we were very undersized, and that's that we had Luigi and Josh with us. And we knew we were going to be a little smaller, so we just work on a little bit of fundamentals on blocking out, and it's helped us.
I think Luigi and Josh would have trouble getting rebounds against these guys, the way they were boxing out. Yeah. All right, now let's slip into the fourth quarter, because now this is anyone's game, and then suddenly you're looking up down the stretch, down 6.
Yes.
Talk to me about what happened there.
I mean, what I told the guys, we were down 6, and when I saw their faces going into that fourth quarter, I didn't see anybody nervous or scared. And that's when you know you have a good team, when the seniors are going to step up, and they weren't. I never saw them scared. I was like, we're gonna be fine. Like we're gonna get back in this game, and we're gonna somehow win it at the end.
And let's talk about walking down the stretch, because there's 3 minutes to go, there's 2 minutes to go, and you're still trailing.
Yeah, we were.
And just talk about the added pressure and stepping up.
Yeah, I mean, we started getting to the line, and we started making our free throws, and then we changed up our defense there at the end. We did a little full court pressure, and they turned the ball over, and we just took advantage of those situations.
Now let's talk about what that means to go undefeated the first round in district play. If the bullseye wasn't on your back, it's there now, and you got 2 biggies that are waiting for you to get through everyone else before TMI and Laredo. But that now second round of district just as important as first. No trap games.
Yeah,
the pressure's on you.
Yes, it is. I told the guys after the game last night in the locker room, enjoy tonight's win, but come back tomorrow. We got to get ready for Victoria. I mean, we got to go on the road for that game. It's still going to be a tough game, and then when we come back, we got Sac still. We got St. Anthony's, and they gave us some tough games here at home. So we're going to go on the road, and they're going to be tough, and they're during the week. So it's a long bus ride. So I told them we got some big games coming up in the second round.
And of course, in your district, 4 teams make it to the postseason. Again, how important is it to make sure you're at that number 1 spot when it's all said and done?
Yeah, we want that 1 spot so we can get a home playoff game in the second round of the playoffs, because we get a bye in the first round if you get first place. So that's our goal. We did the same thing last year. We got to host at home. We'd like to do that again.
Laredo, of course, is Laredo, and I know that loss stung them pretty good. But Coach, you guys responded last year to that Laredo squad. But talk about fans may not understand. They got to see St. Joe against TMI. Laredo was good enough to beat TMI. That wasn't an off night for TMI.
No,
that was a good team.
No, I mean, I had a good feeling Laredo was going to beat them, even if it was a road game for them. They're super talented, and they're well coached, and their kids play well, and they make big shots when they need it. And I had a good feeling that they could beat TMI. It could have gone either way. We got to see the game online, and it could have gone either way, but Laredo made the plays down the stretch over TMI.
To go undefeated in district play the first round, is this more of a carryover into the work ethic after losing last year, or is this a progression after the non-district games getting ready this year, more so to get ready to go undefeated?
Yeah, I mean, it's a little bit of both, I guess. We lost some close games during non-district. We lost them by a buzzer beater twice out of our 4 losses. So those tough tournaments playing in Fort Worth, the BISD have gotten us ready for district, and we're excited for the second round.
Before I let you go, our boys got it done on Monday.
Yes, they did.
Right? Had to throw that out there. For those of you that don't know, there's a coaching tree, right? Everyone talks about a coaching tree. Well, there's a Lucio coaching tree. Yourself, Fermin down at Hannah, Alex down in Los Fresnos, Anissa, your sister-in-law also down in Los Fresnos. Just talk about that and how your family all got into coaching, and then all 3 brothers are all head coaches somewhere.
Yeah, I mean, we all 3 of us played basketball at Hannah, and we had Coach Denson as our coach, and I think he just made us all fall in love with the game, and we've just been doing it our whole lives. I mean, we used to do travel basketball, and we used to take teams all over the valley and all over the state to play, and it's just been in our – I guess it's in our blood. We just love the game, and we love coaching kids. We do it for the kids. It's cool because I have somebody to go talk to after every game. We have a little group chat, me and my brothers, just talking about anything like, hey, we're going to face this. What do you guys think? And they tell me the same thing, and we talk about it. When we have barbecues, we just talk about basketball, and it's
Thanksgiving must be interesting then, right?
Oh, yeah. I mean.
The Christmas time, bragging rights.
Yes. Like I always tell the kids, I was like, hey, I want to sit at the head of the table this year. We better beat Hannah. And this year I didn't get to sit at the head of the table. So.
Is that a thing?
No, it's a joke.
Because Fermin must have been sitting at the front of the table.
Yeah. Tally sheet in the springtime to say, okay, well, how far did you go? Well, how far did you go? How many games? Well, I beat you. Those kind of conversations.
Yeah, he got us this year.
Small. That's a small world. Before we let you go, Jerry is also up for an award.
Yeah.
So talk about that and how people can go out and vote for Jerry.
Yes. He got voted or nominated for the Dave Campbell's Basketball Player of the Week. You can go to their website. And we have it on our Twitter and our Facebook for St. Joe. There's a link. You scroll all the way down to the bottom, and vote for Jerry is for his game against TMI, where he had 45.
Yeah, and I knew there was something off with that scoring.
Yeah.
And we had it at 43, so I apologize to Hernando because on here I said 43 and it was actually 45.
Yeah.
And, I mean, that was one of the crazier performances I've seen.
And
It was
amazing to see. He just had that look in his eye in the fourth quarter where I'm going to take over this game for us.
They're getting roughly 3 games a weekend, and he's putting up 100 a week.
Yeah.
That's what's happening right now. The Jerry Martinez show, put up 30, and again, you're talking about a game in which he didn't make a basket. A made basket wasn't called for Jerry Martinez till the third quarter. Yeah, big stuff. Coach, again, congratulations on going undefeated in the first round of districts. I know you got some other interviews to get to.
Yes.
We appreciate you joining us here on the
thank
show.
you guys.
We'll see you, Sammy.
Appreciate it.
Sammy Lucio, we'll
Thank
be
you.
right back with more after this.
Come visit our new store in downtown Harlingen. We have furniture, appliances, clothes, collectibles, and more. All funds collected support the Sunny Glen Children's Home. Come see us at Vintage on Jackson at First and Jackson in Harlingen.
Baby, just listen to me.
Escucha,
Do everything with speed.
prontísimo,
Out of home business or
flexible,
insurance for all your needs.
barato,
You say you just got a new boat. Come on by and we'll give you a free quote.
prontísimo,
Okay, who's singing? Me or you? Hello?
accesible.
Come on.
Ask your agent how you can start saving with Pronto. Best price in town.
This is Idea North Mission, and you're watching Real Sports Live.
Date night on South Padre Island? No problem. You could hit the town and dance the night away. Or maybe you'd prefer some fun and games, like being a kid again. Party like a grown-up? Or a throwback to the good old days? Tough call. Luckily, either decision will be the right one. Choosing what to do on South Padre Island? That's as hard as it gets. Visit SoPadre.com.
Back here at Luke Freya Motors, we're talking sports here on a Wednesday. Here at Luke Freya Motors, again, we want to invite the fans to come down here. I know our broadcast, we run commercials, and Luke Freya is one of the primary sponsors on Real Sports Live. And if it weren't for the sponsors like Luke Freya Motors, we wouldn't be able to travel to San Antonio, to get to Laredo, to get to games, to be at the Brownsville Sports Park on Saturday and Sunday covering soccer coverage. It's the sponsors like Luke Freya Motors here in Brownsville. So I always encourage fans, at the very least, yes, do business with them, but at the very least, pop in sometime here at Luke Freya Motors and just pop in and say, hey, thanks for being able to allow Real Sports Live to broadcast those games. Because if it weren't for the Luke Freyas of the world, we would certainly be struggling at best to get to as many games as we did. Kevin Naro now joined with Ruben Rodriguez as we continue to talk basketball. Yes, it's softball season. We'll get Kevin into softball here in just a moment. And now both of these guys are in here double teaming me with this Cowboy stuff. And so, again, excitement. But let's talk some hoops, Ruben, in your travels. District 32 6A may or may not be the Los Fresnos Falcons boys to take and walk away with.
Oh, well, we saw the matchup first off on Friday. It was that close shootout, 64-54. The Falcons knocked off Brownsville Hannah. Then the question was, okay, can they continue this momentum against San Benito, a team who has had a very rough time as of late? Not rough time, but they've had a good time as they come off wins. They had a couple big wins in tournaments, and they fell short 58-50. And that sets up the duel then. They're 1-1 in district play. That sets them up against Harlingen now. And the Cardinals have had a nightmare start in 32-60. They dropped that 2-game thriller against San Benito on Friday, and then they drop a 5-point game, 61-56 last night to Brownsville Rivera. So now the question is, who's going to want it more? You're going to have those Fresnos who's going to be a little bitter after that loss on Tuesday night, or Harlingen who knows that their season is on the line, because in the district in 32-6A, you have no time to celebrate a win or dwell on a loss. It's, hey, you win, move on. You lose, move on. And it's going to be tough, and that's going to be the case on Friday between Harlingen and Los Fresnos.
Kevin, it's few and far between in which boys basketball can say San Benito beat Harlingen. How big was that game there that night?
First off, it was quite the scene. Anytime San Benito and Harlingen play, it was a packed house on both sides, and it had the feel for a playoff game. Harlingen felt that they had the pieces to win that game. And Ryan had his 20 points, and I felt he was able to put Harlingen in a position to win that game. I thought Jaden Rendon got off to a little bit of a slow start, and that ultimately killed him. But what's been the issue with Harlingen is outside of Rendon and Ryan, who's going to be the next guy up? And we've yet to see that. And that's been their problem this year. And they're right now they're 0-2 in district. If they could get 6-8 points off from a roll guy from Rodriguez, or any other, they need to find that third contributor, and it's got to come from somewhere. Ryan had 27 last night and a loss to Rivera. So, there are two guys that they bank on. They're doing their part. It's the role players that they need to wake up, find some way to adjust, and they need to find the way to help that offense. Because if they can do that, Harlingen can turn this around.
Well, I know going into that matchup, realistically, we were looking at the girls' game, wondering, the intrigue was the girls' game. The San Benito girls, how good are they? But now on the boys' side, it's not just a win against Harlingen, but now the momentum. San Benito knocks off Los Fresnos, and so now this game becomes even bigger for Harlingen because Los Fresnos isn't going to get they're going to want to get back on the court really fast after losing that game.
Yeah, and, it's I'm trying to think, probably – maybe 2017 or 18, the last time this district was this chaotic. I think that was the year Harlingen South went 8-6 and didn't make it into the playoffs just because everyone was beating each other, and it was such a deep district. It was 8 teams at that time, and now it's 6. So, to the point of you're playing 10 district games and you start 0-1, you're already starting a half step behind everybody else, let alone you go 0-2. So the position that Harlingen is in right now is they have to win this game on Friday. It doesn't matter what happens on Saturday, Sunday, Monday. Everything is on the line on Friday at Los Fresnos. And San Benito, just threw that backdoor slider. Now they're unbeaten, and now they pissed off Los Fresnos, which makes it even harder for Harlingen to go in there and try and win that game. So you have a team that their season, it's on the line.
Yeah, because if Harlingen wins, you're looking at both Harlingen and Los Fresnos starting the district at 1-2.
Right.
Which means now we already talked about that Hannah is probably going to beat some people. So you got to be ready because Hannah's going to win. Now Rivera has shown, we can beat some people on any given night. So for these two teams to be looking and their coaches telling them, hey, the best we can get is 1-2 Harlingen. Or Los Fresnos, we don't want to go 1-2.
One of those two. If one of those two, Los Fresnos, Harlingen, can go 2-3 by the halfway point, I think they'll have a shot to make the playoffs. If Harlingen goes 0-3, that is about as a death sentence as any, because then you still have to play Weslaco, who, from what I understand, isn't quite the Weslaco of old. Still a winnable game for Harlingen, but then you got to play Hannah. Hannah is one of the teams that beat St. Joe, and it wasn't a buzzer beater.
No.
Hannah is a very good basketball team. They did lose to Los Fresnos. Sammy Lucio just felt that they didn't shoot the ball very well. So we'll see how Hannah turns around. But San Benito on the other side, they're so athletic. And this is probably the rare time where we see, this team hadn't won a game until their football players came. Okay, so then going into the Battle of the Arroyo on going into the game Friday, that was their first true game because they had a break. They hadn't played basketball in about a week and a half, 2 weeks. Mm-hmm. So they were healthy. They were fresh. They had gotten their football players back. They got their basketball legs under them. And we saw that translate onto the court. We saw the physicality. They're big. They're long. They're athletic. DeAnthony Mireles, who I was raving about at the All-Star game, he hit a couple big shots. I think the X factor in this game was Corbin. The younger brother, and he played really well inside the paint. Harlingen didn't have an answer for him with the things he did off the bench. And Coach Garza, kudos to him because when he was in Porter, they were relevant for a long time. They had a lot of good teams, kind of fell off for a little bit, but he's gone in there. And let's be real. San Benito is a football school. It is a football school, and that's their bread and butter. And for Coach to be able to just write that off, wait patiently till he gets his football players back, put them in and implement them in the game plan. I think they're doing a very good job right now, and that team is 2-0, and I think if people aren't talking about San Benito just yet, I think it's about that time to maybe just put them on the radar. Like Parcells said, put the anointing oil away for now, but start thinking about San Benito down the stretch and, as the season goes on. But, yeah, Harlingen's in a must-win mode. Los Fresnos, they're going to be back at home on Friday night, and they both need to win that ball game. But on the girls' side, we thought, the girls may need to watch themselves, Harlingen girls, because San Benito may creep up and sting them. But they just beat Weslaco last night. That was a huge win for San Benito. I thought the difference in Friday's game was that Angie only had 10 points. So defensively, Rosa did a really good job. And Harlingen as a whole just adjusting to the style that San Benito played. And one thing that I did notice was that San Benito played to the physicality of Harlingen for about a half. Because you've seen so many of her teams where the teams, they just get beat down by the end of that first quarter, and they just rather not go against the press. They'd rather not play bully ball. But San Benito hung with them for about a half and maybe about a half of that third quarter until Harlingen was able to pull away.
And so, Ruben, that sets up some monster games in District 32-6A on both the boys and the girls. This is far from being decided who's going to be top dog when this district's said and done.
I know they say I know District 32-6A is based out of the Eastern Valley, but I like to call it the Wild West of basketball because it's competitive. Alex Lucio, head coach of the Falcons, I got to speak with him after the game. He said every Tuesday, every Friday night, it's going to be a heavyweight fight. Throw records out the window with the 6-team district and everyone in a little room just to sneak in. Everyone's going to come out swinging, and that's going to be the case here. Harlingen girls are 4-0. Los Fresnos is 2-2. They picked up another win. I believe over San Benito, if I'm not mistaken. No, they picked up a loss 49-40. They dropped another close one, too, and that's because they just got back off a big win against Hannah, 46-43. And people were saying that, Los Fresnos, they're going to steamroll Hannah. Look at I did my research on it. It was the last 16 district meetings before Hannah got a win. Hannah last beat Los Fresnos in 2015. And the whole second half was just teeter-totter. Who wants it more? Who wants it more? Sophia Roman, brother Ricardo Roman, she was hitting shots. Amy Bustos was putting up shots. And then it just came down to Maritza Ortega and Aileen Ortega getting in the paint, making those rebounds and those putbacks, those second-chance buckets. But Harlingen High 4-0, the girls' side. Los Fresnos, the girls 2-2. Again, throw records out the window. That's going to be a heavyweight fight at 7:30.
So Kevin, it's going to be the same thing on the boys and the girls' side in District 32-6A, and the teams that weren't necessarily picked to win this thing. And I'm talking about the Riveras, the Hannahs that are like, okay, they're good enough, and you never know. Now you got to look at them and say you got to prepare for them, or they're going to beat you. And if they beat you, you're in a world of hurt.
Yeah, at least on the boys' side. On the girls' side, Rivera and Hannah, they're still a ways off from being in the playoff mix. But on the boys' side, I think Rivera made a statement last night, winning in Harlingen. And I don't know, I'm from Edinburgh, but there's just something about when you win in Harlingen that just means so much to so many people. But, I mean, I get it. It is what it is. But, that district's shaping up quite well. But, last night, when Leo Lara was a senior, they were playing at Pioneer one year, and it was a full house, and I saw people from McAllen, people from Edinburgh, people from far, and I ran into one of my old friends, Danny Torres, who's from Edinburgh, and I said, Danny, I was like, what are you doing here? Like, this is Santa Rosa Sharyland Pioneer. And he says, I know, and I'm like, well, you have no affiliation to either team. He said, well, I'm here to see Leo Lara. And he goes, so is he, so is he, so is he. We're here to watch Leo. And I said, fair enough. So last night I get to the Sharyland Vela game, and it's the same thing. People are there to watch Emma Lucio. I'm not shy about speaking my opinion. I said it last night on the air. I was like, Edinburgh Vela is the #1 team in girls basketball, head and shoulders. I even had a coach, not going to say who it was, but I had a coach tell me that the way Vela plays basketball this year is just something we don't see in the Valley. It's just they're playing at a different level. They're playing at a different speed. Emma had 29 points last night, and Janae Coleman had 21. So that's easily when you have two of the top 5 players in the Valley, your team's going to be really good. But it's also, the Carson Hackerouts of the world who, she's really come into her own in the starting 5. Gigi Betancourt, who's a sophomore. Like I said, she filled in the roles. She filled in the role last year at the point guard position when Lauren Vega got hurt. And, those are some very, very tough shoes to fill. And you have Faye Vasquez, a girl who's a multi-sport athlete and who I thought really stepped it up in the front row in volleyball, and then she translated over to basketball. So that's a very, very good team. And they're 11-0 in district, and they're going to win that district if it's not locked up already. But that district on the flip side is very interesting because you have them, you have Rowe, who's sitting with 1 loss, you have Sherryland, who's really the feel-good story in girls basketball this year. They only won 6 district games last year. They've already won 9 this year. They're 9-3. They're at 19 wins. They're going to get to at least 25 wins with how many games are left, at least in my brain. And then you have that bottom half where Mackay beat Memorial last night. Mackay's on the outside looking in, so Claire's kind of licking her chops just a little bit, sitting at 7-5, and then you have Pioneer, who's starting to get healthy at the right time. So that district, there's still a lot to decide, at least in the 3, 4, 5, 6 spots on the girls' side. But for Sherryland to be in the position they're in, I was talking with Coach Mesa last night, was that they haven't been to the playoffs in 6 years. The last time they won a playoff game was in 2015 when she was an assistant there under Coach Whitaker when they upset Mercedes in the first round, when a 4-1. So she goes, it's here. We know we can do it. And I said, well, look, and it becomes interesting because it's like you want, and I told her, this was me saying her, you want to be that 3 seed. I said, if you stay the 3 seed, there's nothing wrong with that because then you can get yourself into a favorable matchup when you face a team on this end of the valley. So it was just a whole conversation on what Sherryland has done and the fact that they're going to win 20-plus games. They're going to make the playoffs. And if they can get a playoff win somewhere sandwiched in between, the rest is just gravy for them.
And again, Edinburgh Vela is maybe, every year we look at, who's the team? Who's the team that's capable of not just winning a district, not just winning a playoff game, but getting to that regional tournament. And right now I'd say that Edinburgh Vela is the team to circle around. You can start stacking some others later on. But Edinburgh Vela girls is definitely there.
If they can get past the second round, that's going to be the big de facto because they're in 5A now. So now you're going to get that 29 5A district. If they can get past that second round, the area round where they may face a Flower Bluff, a CC Veterans, Carroll, who I think is a very good team. If you can get past that second round, then I think that opens the door for a quite healthy playoff run for Coach Zarate.
Any other basketball, the 5A on the boys' side? Let's talk about that a little bit.
Talk more about the 5A boys' side first and foremost. Harlingen South still stays rolling. They stay unbeaten here in 32 5A. They kicked off, I believe they won last night against Brownsville Pace. Check my stats here, but we know the South Hawks, they've been still on that tear, and it's something we haven't seen in a while. Of course, you mentioned a couple moments ago, Harlingen South Dakota, and they were in that tough 32-6. There was times where they went on win streaks, and they still couldn't make the postseason, and now they're rolling right. That's a hot team. Also, Brownsville Pace also doing good as well in the 32 5As. Brownsville Veterans is struggling a bit, but they're working their way back.
Well, and let's talk about small school. Kevin, San Perlita got the job done. We expected them to beat San Isidro last night. It's not the same San Isidro teams we've been seeing, but now San Perlita team can go into their next matchup on the road. Or is it here?
No, it's here. The matchup's here. It's on the road, but it's here.
On the road.
We can finally talk about it.
The first real game that Coach Garza is finally going to get to say, now.
Yeah,
let's focus on
it's time to draw the line in the sand, man. Because look, they've done what they're supposed to do. They won the games they're supposed to. They're 3-0 in district. Fantastic. But now, there goes my notes. But now, they got to go into McMullen County. And I told Nate, I said, in my brain, I think you can split with them. Obviously, he's the coach. He feels they can sweep them. I said, well, prove me wrong, and it starts Friday night just to get a measuring stick to see just where San Perlita is at because, sure, they're 8-17. And I told him, I said, hey, well, the good thing is that, you get to start all over again. Now you get to start phase 2 and reset your guys, mentally to understand that now this is district play and that 8-17 record doesn't mean anything. So, they've taken care of the San Isidros of the world. They won the games they're supposed to against Bruni. Was it Benavides also, along the way. So Friday will be very, very telling. And it's a good thing that they're on the road first because I'm the kind of guy if I got to go on the road and place a tough district opponent, I want to play them first at their house. Because if you can steal that one, the advantage is in your court. But Julian Johnson's going to need to play a big game for them. I felt when they played West Oso earlier this year, they were down by 8 in that second quarter. Late in that second quarter, at one point in the game, they were down by 20. So we've seen the sparks, and we've seen the little stretches where San Perlita can play some really good ball. It's just a matter of them really putting it together.
The crazy part about that team is that we've been at this point in the season in years past, over the past 6 years, let's say, in San Perlita, and they've had borderline 20 wins by now, and yet they're below that.
Yeah.
But you still get the same feeling that this team could make the regional tournament, which is the same thing we had during those great years in which they were beating everybody and playing in games. The record doesn't look like it, Kevin, but the feel is they could beat Tilden.
Sure.
And they can make it a run and be talking about, there's no big bad wolf out there that's going to keep them from getting the regional tournament.
No, and I'm glad you brought that up because there isn't. I mean, just being realistic, Calvert had their big guy transfer out. They're not as good as they were. Tilden, obviously, San Perlita can take one from them, maybe sweep them, and then Dimebox just isn't the same anymore. And those were the 4 teams. Remember that, for those of people that don't remember, that those 4 teams were ranked in the top 10. And those 4 teams met each other in the second round. The year prior to last, it was San Perlita played Dimebox in the second round. Calvert played McMullen County. And then last year, it was flipped. Dimebox played McMullen, and Calvert played San Perlita. So, it's a matter of just, a lot like Edinburgh Velas, you can get out of that second round when that's your toughest test. It's a mini regional tournament in 1A. You get out of that, really sky's the limit. And for these kids, I know they're new, but let's be real. They've seen this their whole lives. They saw the Victor Galvans, the Noah Olivareses, and then the Tigers, and then the Eli Terrys. So they're just going to be like, oh, well, we're back in the regional tournament where we belong. And it's very possible with this team because, there is no team out there like, man, they got to play Calvert in the second round. Like, it's going to be tough. So there's still plenty of time to figure out the pieces. But I think it really starts Friday, and Friday we'll have a good measuring stick on where the Trojans will be.
Throw the record out the window. Take a look at their performance on the road at Tilden. If they compete, great. If they win, look out.
Yes, I think if they compete, I think that's something Garza can build on, and that'll give those kids some confidence. And then they'll win the rest of the way. I don't see them losing from now after the Tilden game to the next go-around. Second go-around, it could be, if they do lose Friday, it could be a share for the title, or it could be you're playing for the outright chip.
Chip and an undefeated district season, which, there was a time you'd look at that team and say,
no.
I don't know.
Yeah. If they do this and they do everything we think they can do, they would be a lot similar to the 2018 Santa Rosa team. Because that was a team where I didn't think they'd win the district. Everyone picked Jubilee to win the district. We thought, okay, this team maybe has a playoff win in them. They'll win that first round matchup, and after that, we didn't expect much. They went to state. Just saying, if they do what we think they can do, there'll be a lot of similarities between those two teams.
Yeah, because I'm telling you right now, what happens is teams start scouting, and the first thing they look at is record. And right now, that record is not going to be something that catches your eye.
Right.
That, look at all these teams they've beaten. People are going to look at them and say, well, they're definitely beatable. Well, then you take a look at what the schedule was and what kind of teams played in the non-district. Coach Gaza always does a masterful job in making sure he lines them up. Win or lose, we're going to line them up. We're going to play. All right, that's going to wrap up the basketball portion of this. We will touch into a little softball, and again, we'll touch base with soccer. One of these days, I'm going to bring Jacob Young, set him right there, and I'm going to let him talk for a solid hour about soccer. He could do it. We'll be right back after this. We'll wrap it up from Look For Your Motors after this.
We're Idea Donna, and you're watching Real Sports Live.
Forever Memories, Antiques and Collectibles, located at 237 North Sam Houston in San Benito, is filled with vintage items, collectibles, and a selection of vinyl records that's as good as it gets. Every shelf, every aisle, and table is filled daily by a number of vendors that ensures that something here just might be the item you have to have. The vinyl record area helps bring an added atmosphere that makes for the fun trip when stepping back in time with the memories. Forever Memories, Antiques and Collectibles in San Benito.
Back here, look for your motors, the Cadillac symbol behind us. They got some new Cadillacs right here on the showroom floor, too. I got 2 white ones, a black one, and another white one over there. They got some Cadillacs on the showroom floor here at Luke Furia Motors in Brownsville, Texas. And that was the first thing we talked about during the COVID times. Coming back on is like car production was way down and just there weren't cars on the lot. Well, I'm looking at a full used car lot behind us, and I'm looking at a showroom floor that's full of cars. And again, Cadillacs are ruling the day right here at Luke Furia Motors. All right, let's talk a little bit about softball, Kevin, because you're going to get a chance to take off all this basketball hat and put on a softball hat and go check out a couple of practices today. We're just around the corner for the first scrimmages, and a lot of excitement. If it isn't every year at this peak, I'm shocked. I think we're at a high level of interest in softball this season going in.
Yeah, we really are. Considering that this was a sport that was first sanctioned, I believe, in '94 in the state of Texas, '94, '95, mid '90s. And just the growth that this sport has, it's taken off. Really in this last decade. I know early in the decade, or in the 2011s, 12s, when my cousin was playing for Chaos. We started to see the level of competition just really start to take off. Clarissa Novato, I mean, she's the GOAT. She's the Jordan of softball here in the Valley. She played at La Jolla, and she played for Chaos with my cousin Sandy, who played down at Ed Calchelsa, and then she went on to Arkansas, major D1 in the SEC, and since then we haven't had another player like that to go on and play at the major D1 level. So, this sport has continued to grow. We've seen travel ball continue to grow, and we've just, really, I think, at least in my opinion, the last 5 years, we've started to see a change in the way the game is played. Kids are getting bigger, but what I mean by bigger is they're getting faster, they're getting stronger. You're seeing the velo being ticked up. We're starting to see kids throw up in the 60s. And with the travel ball scene, you're seeing a lot of these kids play up in their age. And when that translates into the varsity, in these last 5 years, you're seeing freshmen come in and play where traditionally you'd be like, well, it's a freshman, they may get some time on the JV, or if they're going to be on varsity, they may pinch hit here or courtesy run here and there. But now you're really starting to see a lot of freshman girls step in and play. And my buddy Brett Esparza a couple of years ago said it on a broadcast. He called them plug in and play. And I was like, man, that's a great way to put it. Plug in and play. And I think this year is going to be a very interesting year for a lot of reasons. One, because I feel there may be a shift in power, because every year, whether people like it or not, 32-6A was the district. That's where, you had the big bats the last 3 to 5 years. And again, whether people like it or not, the power was always in the lower valley, where you had San Benito, create that, run in 13 and 15 where they went to state. You had Weslaco mid-lower valley, they went to state in 16. They went to the region final last year. We may see the shifting from 32-6A over to 31-5A, where you're still going to get a mixture of the mid-valley to the lower valley. Last year, I thought 32-6A was that was prime 32-6A softball when you had Weslaco, you had Katia Reyes, just a dominant pitcher, probably one of the better performances we've seen from a pitcher in quite some time. And I think it's going to be very hard to try and do that again for anyone else. You had, Los Fresnos still picking up where they left off, a year removed from the Sweet 16 with what they had offensively. You had Crystal Perez, Victoria Altamirano, that just 1-2 alone, who graduated last year, lethal. You still had Ileana down at Harlingen South. You had Lily and Jamie down at Harlingen. And then you had San Benito, you had Emily Delgado, you had Amari. So, I thought that last year's 32-6A that is as good as it gets. And how good was it? Was Harlingen went 8-6 in district, and they did not make the playoffs. So, yeah, that just speaks to the level of how high that district was when it came to a competitive standpoint. But I really think the shifting of the power is going to go to that 31-5A district, where now you have Mercedes, you have Brownsville Veterans, you have Harlingen South, you have Lopez, you have Weslaco East. So there's going to be a lot of teams competing for that 4 spot. And when you look at that district, it's weird because they go scrimmage. They go their 5 scrimmages, and then first game of the year, it's a district game. So how about that?
Yeah.
You know, coaches get upset. We're like, well, I only get one tournament and I get one non-district game. Or in football, you know, we only get one non-district game and we jump right into district play. You know, here you're jumping right into district play, and what you're seeing the effects from these 6A schools that went down into 5A where they had to play a 6-team district or they had to play an 8-team district. And it was a conversation I had both with Lottie last night from Vela. I had the conversation with Lucio from Vela, and I had the conversation with Coach Mesa from Sherryland, was that how are these kids adjusting to this 10-team district? Because a whole lot can happen. And then in a sport like softball, where baseball and softball, those games were designed for you to fail more than you succeed, right? They always told you you're going to fail 70% of the time.
And still be fine.
And you're going to be fine. Because, you know, in basketball, I mean, I never really played the sport, but I just feel, and I may be biased, that there's a lot more mental game in softball and in baseball. Because you know as well as I do, you can be 0 for 3, go up to bat in the 7th, and you have the winning run on third with 1 out. You knock that run in, you're a hero.
And you had a great game.
You had a fantastic game. You went 1 for 4. You got the game-winning run in. Doesn't matter. So, you know, as I start to make these trips, I want to talk with these coaches and just how quickly can they get these kids to understand that you are playing a marathon and not a sprint of a district. And I think in this 31-5A, whoever comes out healthy at the end will be the most successful. You know, and you're talking about, you know, Zel Camacho from Mercedes. You're talking about Jenny Shank from Brownsville Lopez. So there's going to be plenty of pitchers. Alexis Damez from Brownsville Veterans. You know, you're going to be talking about a lot of good pitching. There's a lot of athletes in that district. And I think right now you can probably go Brownsville Veterans, Mercedes, Lopez, Weslaco East, Harlingen South. You know, Harlingen South is going to be an interesting one because we've seen the teams that they've had, you know, in the last 5-6 years where, you know, in 2018, I mean, they had Murderers Row. 1 through 9, it was stacked. I know this year, I think Harlingen South, they're going to rely heavily on Karime Martinez, who's a left-handed third baseman. Or she bats from the left-handed side. She plays third base. They're going to need a lot from her because you also have to replace Ileana Salcedo in that middle of the order. So, you know, they're going to look to Karime to make provide a lot of runs for them. Lexi Sandoval, who was a freshman last year, she's coming in as a sophomore this year. Played a little bit of everywhere last year, but expect her to kind of be the horse in the circle for them. You know, and then Yezi Perez, who I think last year she had a great year. She had I think she had 11 home runs. She's about my height. And, you know, don't fool yourself. She has a lot of power. And she just joined RGV Heat this past offseason, so I think that's going to be huge in her growth as a player. She played catcher. She played shortstop. We'll see where Joey Rios decides to play her, but she's good either way. But I think when you have her at the top of your lineup, you know, 1 through 4, it's going to be good. It's going to Emmy Ruiz as well. She's going to round out that top 4 for Harlingen South. 1 through 4 is going to be good. And then where are you going to get the production on the bottom half of the lineup? That's going to be my biggest question for Harlingen South when we do get there. That's just in 5A.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You want to go another 3 hours
Yeah.
on this show right now?
Yeah.
I'll expand by saying Real Sports Live
Yeah.
is going to be broadcasting in the Coastal Bend once again for
Yeah.
softball season
Yeah.
and Cal Allen
Yeah.
and what they bring to the table. But again, softball season, first practices just
Yeah.
started last week.
Yeah.
First games aren't till 9 days
Hey,
away.
yeah, no, just to touch up on it, just briefly, you know, Teresa Vila and Los Fresnos, if not one of the better, you know, her and Shelby Calderon from Edinburgh High, 2 of the top center fielders. I mean, if you haven't seen Teresa Vila play center field, you need to go watch her and play some center field. Down in Los Fresnos, you know, they still have Ella Solkazi, Dakota Martinez, and then they have, you know, the ace in the hole with Kate Bettis in the circle. San Benito, on paper, should win that district. Bethany Aguilar, finally a senior. To be the man, you got to beat the man. And over in Weslaco, I think breakout performances this year, Romy Nunez and Yezi Perez, 2 players that you may not know who they are, but you'll know who they are at the end of the year. Yezi and I think Romy is in for a big year. Down in Harlingen, you know, they have one of the top 5 players in the Valley, in my opinion, in Lily Rocha. She's going to be signing to go play at McLennan. La Jolla on the flip side, you know, they have a lot back. They have everybody back but their shortstop, Harley. And you saw Arlette
Yep.
on how good she was. And then just quickly touching base on Cal Allen, you know, the talent they have coming back, you know, with their juniors, with Alana Alvarez, Megan Geyer, Those are their core juniors, and they have Brooklyn Metter, who's going to be back as a sophomore. And I don't say this too often, but Brooklyn Metter was just built differently. And at the end of her career, I mean, we're talking, major D1. That kid has every tool to go and do it at the catching position for Cal Allen, and the things she did last year, just, again, a freshman. She didn't even turn 15 about halfway until district play. And you're talking about a 14-year-old stepping in and playing in the district with Ava Hernandez and Reese Atwood of the world over at Teloso Midway. So I'm expecting a big year from Cal Allen. Like I said, I can keep going on about Cal Allen and just how good they're going to be. And then in the
Coach Lentz is talking about a freshman team that freshman.
And see, the crazy thing was that against TM, she had the 8th graders go and watch that game against TM. And I've never seen a group of freshmen who were just, they're on TikTok half the time. These kids weren't. They were watching the game. and after the game, Cal Allen happened to lose that game, but Coach Lentz called that freshman group over, and she had a conversation with them. And I was lucky enough to be kind of in that circle with them, just listening to what she had to say. But the most important thing is those kids were paying attention. When Coach Lentz spoke, they were listening. And there's a lot of optimism for this freshman class to mesh with what the sophomores they do have and the juniors they have this year. Corpus Christi Veterans is going to be another team up there in 29-5A. Flower Bluff is going to be another.
I told you, 3 hours. Here
I can keep going, but I'll shut up.
All right, you want me to expand this a little further? I will. Briefly, 1 week from now, we'll be talking about where your travels are. Baseball season is just as exciting as softball. Getting ready for this year.
Same thing I said about 32-6A. It's in the east. Well, 31-5A is 32-5A Eastern Rio Grande Valley. That's going to be the Wild West of baseball. You throw in a young Harlingen South squad who's going to have, if I'm not mistaken, they're going to have 5 sophomores in that starting lineup confirmed. They have 5 of those guys already got, and they were already on the varsity startup. South lost 2-3 players. They're ready to go. Los Fresnos. They have a key player in Josh Munoz returning, but they're determined to make the trip back to the district title. Harlingen High also being in the mix. Brownsville Veterans has one of the brightest young pitchers in Carlos Garza, only a junior, so we'll see what he did. They're going to come back a defender, thrown in 32-5A. 31-5As, you look at Mac High, bringing in, led by Jack Millen, the senior catcher, who's going to be stepping up big. 32-6A, you look at Westaco also, who's led by probably one of the best shortstops in the Rio Grande Valley, and Stone Gomez, and that. It's just going to be a fun week, and I'm just counting down the days.
He was looking at it this morning. He's like, hey, what are we doing next Monday? I was like, I don't know. What do you want to do next Monday? Well, it's baseball season. I'm already going to map out where I'm going. So, yeah, next week on this show, Kevin will be talking about the first look at some scrimmages. Ruben will be talking about the first look at some of these teams as we get into that. I want to remind you on a programming note, we will be broadcasting a swim meet tomorrow from Los Fresnos on our premium channel, on our Rio Sports Live network, and all of our other coverage such as soccer, such as basketball. Rudy and Ruben did a terrific job of doing some soccer coverage in Brownsville this past weekend on Saturday and Sunday as we dove down into the younger ranks of some of the talented groups coming up. That's all coming up on our Rio Sports Live network, on our channels, on the premium channel, RSL 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7, and on the Bloodhound channel for those that are going to be talking about Brownsville Saint Joe and the Bloodhounds. Well, they're starting up some cars here on the showroom floor. That's our cue. Hope you enjoyed our broadcast here of Luke Furia Motors, Talkin Sports. For Kevin Narl, from Ruben Rodriguez, for Rudy Zamaripa Jr. on the camera, Joe Bowling.